project is going to be a towel holder, a dish towel holder. This part snaps, it fits around the bar of your stove or your refrigerator, and your towel flips through the ring and is nice and handy. If you like this project, I sell sewing kits for this and other projects on my Etsy shop, but more about that later. So let's get started. For this project, the dish towel holder, you're going to need the following supplies. You're going to need some cotton type fabric. You're going to need a piece of paper that's 11 by 5 inches wide so we can create our pattern. You're going to need a shower curtain rod hanger. And I got mine at the local dollar store. They come in 12 packs, so you can make a bunch of these as gifts. And that is our ring at the bottom. And then you're going to need some kind of a snap closure. You can either use your plastic snaps that come in a kit like this, and I'll put a link for this box from Amazon, or you're going to need a sew-on snap. One of the two, because you need some kind of a closure. So to create the pattern, you're going to take your paper that's 11 inches by 5 inches, and you're going to fold it in half. And as you can see, the pattern is rounded at the top, but then it narrows down here at the bottom. And this is the part we need to create first. So you're going to fold it in half. You're going to measure down 7 inches. Turn my ruler the right way here. Seven inches, and I'm just going to make a mark. Then I'm going to come to the bottom, and on the folded side, I'm going to measure in 1.5 inches. And between those two marks, I'm going to draw a line. And that line is where I'm going to cut. I'm going to cut that. And then to create the rounded at the top, you can either draw it, or I start here at the corner and I just round it a little bit. And if you do it folded, then both sides of your pattern will round the same. So now I have my top of my pattern rounded, and I have it tapering down to a 3-inch width across the bottom. So that creates your pattern, and then you're going to take your fabric and you're going to cut it to that shape. And I've already cut mine. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take and put our fabrics right side to right side, or pretty side to pretty side. And we're going to line it up, and we're going to clip it. I like to clip my fabrics when I stitch, especially when I have a long run like this, so that they don't shift on me and get off. So I'm going to clip it. And then we're going to leave an opening at the bottom here so that we can turn it. And I'm going to use my red and green method you've seen in a lot of my videos. And I only need that to be about 2 fingers width. I want to be sure that I come in a little bit from this corner so that when I turn it, that corner is nice and crisp. So we'll go to the machine and stitch this up. Now we're going to stitch all the way around, starting at our green clip, stitching around and stopping at our red, leaving this small opening at the bottom edge. And remember, I want to make sure that I get these corners nice and crisp. So we're going to stitch to the corner, leave our needle down, lift our presser foot, turn our project, and keep going. When you come to a curve, if you just go a little slower and keep your machine going, it's easy to make a curve, then it's easier than stopping and starting. So this is a kind of a slight curve, which is a good way to practice. So I'm just going to go a little slower, and I'm just going to keep turning my fabric. Then when I get to the top where it straightens out, I'm going to put my needle down and turn. And we're going to do the same thing on this corner. When I get to that corner, I'm going to slow down a little bit, and I'm just going to go slow and turn my fabric without stopping. And then I'm going to just go down the straight side. I'm going to remove that red clip, but I'm going to put my finger there to remind me that that's where I want to stop. So I'm going to get to this corner, put my needle down, lift and turn, and then go just a little bit, leaving an opening right there. And backstitch just a little. Now we'll go to the mat and turn it right side out and continue. Now we've stitched all the way around, and I like to flip my project over and just make sure that I caught it good on both sides. Now's the time to check that, because I can correct it before I turn it right side out and find a hole. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to clip these corners across here diagonally to reduce the bulk. And I just want to make sure that I don't clip my stitching. So I'm just going to cut across there and across here. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to make some tiny little cuts right here on this curve, so that when I turn it, this will be nice and smooth. If you don't give it any ease, then when you turn it, that curve is not going to smooth out well. It's going to always look a little rough. So same thing, I'm going to snip into it, but I don't want to cut my stitching. And I'm just going to make about 3 or 4 of those right at that curve on both sides. Start about here, and I'm just snipping through both layers, but staying away from that stitching, because I don't want my stitching to come loose. There we go. And see, that will allow that curve to kind of give when I turn it right side out. Then I'm going to turn it right side out. I like to poke my finger all the way in to the opposite end of my project, stick my thumb and kind of poke my thumb back out, and that gives me a good chunk to turn it, and it turns quickly. Turn it right side out. Then I'm going to take my chopstick, and I want to make sure that I get those corners at the bottom out nice and crisp. Start there, and then I'm going to take, and up at the top where my curve is, I'm going to take my chopstick and just gently run it along that seam line and kind of smooth it out. And since we gave it that ease, those curves come out nice and pretty. And then I just take my chopstick and kind of run it down my long seams just to help it flatten out. Then you always want to press your project before you top stitch. And if you roll your seam in between your fingers and your thumb, that will make it lay down flat before you press it. And the flatter and more even your project is before you stitch it, the easier it is to stitch it and make it look really nice. So I'm going to press it. And I'm going to make sure that down here at the bottom that my fabric is turned in, so that when I stitch it, I don't have any raw edges showing. All right, it's pressed and ready to go, and we'll go back to the machine. Now we're going to stitch all the way around and top stitch, and mainly to close up this opening. And I want to start down here at the bottom, but I don't want to start in a corner, because starting in a corner is hard to maneuver, and it's also a little bit more difficult for the machine. When I top stitch, I want to use kind of the inside of this foot as my guide, and it makes just a little bit of a more narrow seam allowance, and it'll look really nice. When I get to that corner, once again, leave my needle down and then turn and keep going. Once again, when I get to this rounded part, I'm just going to keep sewing and just gently turn rather than stopping and starting. Back to the bottom, I'm going to turn and I'm going to go back over my stitching just a little bit to lock it in place. And back stitch. Got my threads. Now we're ready to create the loop for our shower curtain rod holder. So I'm going to fold this bottom tapered part up. I think I want this to be my back side. I'm going to fold it up about 1 inch and clip it in place. Then I'm going to stitch across here, trying to stay on that stitch line, but if I don't, it's no big deal because this will be the back side so you won't see it. But I want to make sure that I go off of these edges so that they catch good. So I'm going to start just a little bit off of that edge and with my needle down and stitch across. And I'm going to back stitch right when I hit that edge so that it's nice and secure. Take my clip off. Going right over that edge and then back stitching again. Now we'll head back to the mat and finish this project up. Now we're ready to add our snap closure, and today I'm going to use the plastic snap kit that I mentioned, in the link will be in the description box, or you can use a hand sewing snap, and if you need to know how to sew that on, I'll put a link for the video I have to how to sew on a snap. So to use the snap kit, your kit comes with an awl and a pair of snap pliers. So the first thing you're going to do is find your position for your snap. So we're going to fold our dish towel holder. We want to make sure that the casing that we made for the ring is on the back side. And we're going to fold this down about 3.5 to 4 inches. You want it pretty close to this gathered part where you're going to put your ring so that you have a good amount of space to put your bar either for your stove or your refrigerator, whatever you're going to hang it on. And I like to fold mine in half and kind of find my center. I'm just going to finger press that. That kind of gives me that center line of my project. And then I put mine about 1/2 inch up. I don't want it too far up here because then that shortens this gap area here. So about on my center line, about 1/2 inch. And I like to go through all of my layers to make my hole. That way I make sure that my snaps line up on both sides. So I take my awl, put it all the way through. When you're doing the plastic snaps, your pieces are, you need 2 caps, that's the big round parts. You need a rounded female part and a straight edge male part. So for the top, you put the cap on top, poke it all the way through, and I like to put the male part on the top of my project. Then you take your pliers and you want to make sure that this cap fits down inside this black piece here that kind of rests inside, and then you make sure it's lined up and you squeeze. And what you want to make sure is that center post flattens out. Then you can see my hole here for my bottom, and that would line up. And on the bottom, the cap comes from the back side. Poke it through, it's on the back. And then my female part fits right inside there. And the same thing, making sure that that cap is resting inside that black section, lining it up and squeezing. And again, that center post has flattened out, and then you can snap it. And I like to snap and unsnap it a couple of times just to make sure it worked. The last thing we're going to do is put in our shower curtain holder thing. And you may have asked yourself, why did I taper this at the bottom when I could have just squared it off? The reason is that when you put the ring on, you want gathers just on the top edge. And if you not tapered that, they would have come way down, and it would have been harder to put your dish towel on. So you just unsnap your shower ring, however it unsnaps, gather it on there, lock it back in place, and then take this locking part and put it on the inside of your holder. And now your holder is complete, and you can just feed your dish towel through, unsnap it, hang it on wherever you're going to hang it, and your dish towel is nice and handy. I hope you liked today's project, the dish towel holder. And remember, I have this project and others in my Etsy shop as sewing kits, and they all have video instructions to go with them. The link is in the box below. See you next time. For this project, you'll need the following supplies: the